What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Took a couple days off, went to Washington for my lady's sister's graduation, and we're back now. We ended off with the GC8 that's right in front of me. We are waiting for a full timing belt and water pump kit to show up so that we can put a new water pump on this. It was pretty leaky and coming out of the weep hole on the water pump. So we're just gonna replace it, brand new stuff. It's better off that way. But today I need to install something that I've been waiting for a while. It didn't really take that long, and it took me a little bit of research to find it. But this is the piece that I needed for the oil pressure sensor. I got two of them because my car is also getting an oil pressure, not sensor, well, I guess sensor. It's a gauge, AEM gauge, oil pressure gauge. One's going in this car. I got one for my car because I finally figured out everything that I need for it. So I was like, screw it, I'm doing a gauge pod anyways, might as well have oil pressure, that's important. I'm gonna try to show you guys the process. It's actually pretty easy. I watched a video on it myself. It was a little bit older, but pretty much you just have to take the alternator off and then, you can get underneath it. But I will show you guys the process on how to do all of that. And hopefully this might be something that you want to do for yourself. Oil pressure is important. And when oil pressure starts to die, you could prevent something from getting worse. And it's just a good thing to monitor. That's one thing I know with my car, I can't watch on the access port. So it'll be cool to have a gauge. And gauges look sick, so join the club. All right, I'll flip it around and show you guys. All right, so as you can see, we haven't pulled the timing belt off yet. We're going to pull the timing belt off, but for now it's just chilling until we get all the new parts and pieces. So we're gonna pull this guy off. You don't have to pull off, from what I've seen, any other accessory. Luckily, you just have to pull off the alternator. Super simple, couple bolts here and here, and then just unplug this and throw it out of the way. All right, if you hear water running in the background, it's because I'm shutting on and off the swamp cooler. So alternator's off, and this little guy, I kind of unplugged and got everything out of my way because I want to be able to put a socket on this, but this is the guy that you're looking for. You're going to remove this little tab like that and just get that out of your way. And then let me figure out what socket this is. It's kind of big, but you're gonna unscrew this. All right, so that guy is going to be a 24 millimeter. I do not have that, so I'm going to just take it out with a wrench. I have a 24 mil, but it's a shorty. I don't have like a big one, and I want to be able to watch it, so I'd recommend just getting a wrench, either a 24 millimeter just box wrench or this, crescent wrench, just so that you can kind of slowly turn it. It shouldn't be super tight. It should just turn until you can kind of just do it by hand. But if you do it this way, at least you won't run the risk of bending this tab and breaking it, or not being able to see if you're pulling the actual bung out of the block, because you don't want to do that. You just want to get this. So just do it by hand slowly with one of these. If I had more hands, I'd show you, but once I get it out, I'll have the technique down. Well, I guess this is why you always check things before you tighten them down. So if you can see the threads on this inner side, the sensors, here's the oil pressure sensor. This threads in, no problem, right? And this will thread in, no problem. But issue is, if you look at, here's a good example. This thread And this thread, that is not correct. These are like pretty coarse threads, and they hit me with the double whammy. They're both the same, which I was like, oh, sick, that'll work, no problem. But they sent me the wrong one. I compared the pictures, and definitely in the pictures, it's a very fine thread. Same with this as well as this. So I've contacted the seller. I just got these on eBay because, I mean, it's a fitting, so I didn't think anything of it. But it's wrong. Hopefully he can fix it. I think I'm just going to get a refund, send it back, and maybe order from somebody else. But that kind of blows. I mean, it's not like it's needed right now, but that was super easy to get out. I think I was in the middle of like taking that out, and then I looked at everything and I did my research. But definitely, if you have a socket, no big deal. Just make sure you use a long socket. And then if you don't have that, just use a wrench. I just loosened it until it got loose enough that I could take it off with my fingers, and it came out no problem. Definitely think that's never been taken out. So didn't have any problems with that. Now it just kind of sucks because same thing with my car. I don't have the oil pressure gauge yet. I'm waiting on that, but we do have like the gauge in the car for this, and I need to get this figured out sooner than later. Hopefully I can get it shipped out this week just so that I can have it. I want both of them. But now I'm stuck with two bungs that don't fit correctly, and I gotta deal with the whole shipping everything back to the seller, and it's annoying, but that's part of modifying cars. Sometimes they send you the wrong pieces and parts and stuff like that, so not a big deal. It is what it is. We'll get it fixed, but for now, kind of at a standstill. I guess the other thing that I can do, since I did get that gauge in, let me go grab it real quick. Excuse my mess. So, ordered one of these guys. We got a boost gauge for my car. As I said, I'm doing the pods with my car. So, let me show you what's going on. We're getting this car ready to go to Subi Fest in California if they accept it. So, oh wow, my camera got really shitty in here. I've always wanted one of these. Ended up getting a good deal on this one. It's the Glow Shift carbon fiber, carbon fiber, whatever. My buddy had one, so I was like, I'll take it. We got to clean up the dash a little bit, and I've always liked the way that these look, just, kind of integrated into the dash. I did have my AFR gauge on this side behind my access port, and I never really paid attention to it because I was always using the AFR off of my access port. But since we're thinking about going to Carberry, I'm considering getting rid of the access port. So we do need to have certain gauges in the car, and oil pressure, boost, and air fuel ratio is what I've gone for with this. I think we're going to be adding another 3 gauges to my pillar. So it is what it is for now. If I could have 6 gauges, there's not a lot of options, in my opinion, with AEM gauges for like crucial stuff that I would like to look at. So boost, air fuel ratio, oil pressure, we'll probably do oil temperature. If I can get a coolant temp one, I think that would be good. Obviously I have the like temperature on the dash, so I'm not sure. The other thing that I really don't like is this boost gauge. I've always hated it. It's in my way of like my speedometer, so that's always been annoying. So I'm happy to have like a boost gauge that's up here that's digital, and it just looks a lot better. It was cool that WRXs came with these, but I'm not a fan. So we'll be getting rid of this, as well as, cleaning up the dash a little bit more. I don't think I'll do the pillars yet because I want to do a flex fuel sensor to run flex fuel. I have the Innovative kit already. I just need the gauge. So we'll have like flex fuel and maybe coolant, and then I don't know what I'll do for the last one, maybe like battery voltage or something stupid. That's kind of where I'm at with like AEM gauges, in that sense of like you have crucial data and then you kind of get left with like one or two where you're like, I don't really know what to do. If I could get like some sort of timing gauge, dynamic multiplier, or knock, I don't know. So we'll see what we can do there. But for now, I do have everything I need to put that gauge in, so I might as well get that done. It really sucks that I don't have the proper fitting to do this because, like I said, it's an easy job, which it is when you have the correct fitting. And it'd really just be nice to be done. All of his gauges in his car, as I've shown you before, are done. They look really good. He's got 4 because he did AFR, boost, oil pressure, and oil temperature. With the Killer Bee pan, they do give you the option. Same with my car, I have that Killer Bee pan so that you can put a bung in for oil temperature. That's already done, and this was the last gauge that needed to be done on this car. Part of buying parts. Oh, the other cool thing, I don't think I talked about this. We really did not think that the strut bar would fit. And obviously, super close. I mean, it's rubbing about right there, but we were able to put it on. So, I mean, that's amazing that you're able to retain that. He does want to put an STI top mount on. I think that would be the point where you'd either have to modify this bar or you just couldn't run it. These WRX top mounts are very small, slim. It's nice to know that he can run an STI top mount and have that extra space. We have seen, fitments with top mounts not fit very well in these cars. So it's nice to know that the fitment on the WRX top mount is very good. You actually have like a ton of room back here, which is not usually the case with like WRXs. So it's good to know if you're doing this for yourself. You will be able to fit a STI top mount, no problem. If you are trying to run it with a strut bar, that's where you're going to run into problems. So at that point, if if this is like your time attack car or any sort of like really built suspension car where you are running to run a strut bar, I would say run a front mount. Front mount, always. Top mounts are good for spool time, but with my experience with my Cobb front mount, you're really not losing any spool time. That thing spools up insanely fast with my Cobb 20G. So if you are trying to run a strut bar, you already know what to do. This is where you learn, and everything like that. Car's running great. I'm excited to have it finished up. It really sucked that the water pump took a shit on us, but it's part of building cars. You get the wrong parts. Things are broken when you think they're perfect, and it's all part of the learning curve. The nice thing is now, I guess, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and we felt really bad when the customer came over. We did feel, really shitty because I wanted to drive this car that day, and we would have. Everything was going fine. Had a slight power steering leak, not a big deal. Still could have drove the car, but then we put coolant in it and felt like shit. Had the customer come over. He's been battling with this car and the time frame that we've been working with, because it does take time to do this stuff. I think we're on, about a month and a half or so that I've had this car. I don't like having cars this long. We can do motors in a day. So it came down to waiting for the wiring harness and everything like that. But he said, and this made me feel a lot better, what if this is some other higher power, whatever, car god, making us do this now so that there isn't a failure in the future that could be detrimental to the motor. So that made me feel a lot better, because we're all about doing everything correctly here at RS Automotive, and doing those preemptive things to ensure that you're not going to have a problem like that in the future, which is very smart in that sense. So we got to do it. At least he knows that the water pump has been done, the timing belt will be done on his dime, and he'll know exactly, because it was kind of a question mark in our heads. We always just get approximate time frames of when these types of things are done. There was no service history with this motor, so it was kind of a guesstimate. The belt looks great. It definitely, there was no question in my mind. We pulled the timing cover off to look at the belt and make sure that it wasn't weather cracked or have any, red flags. And it looked like a reputable belt. But when this all went down, it was kind of just like, okay, you got to do it. It sucks. It is what it is. But at least you know that it's getting done. It's going to get done correctly. And you'll have 75,000 miles, whatever, that you can put on that water pump timing belt setup. You know that it's new, blah, blah, blah. I could talk about this forever, but it always comes up in builds and it sucks. But you just kind of have to look at it in the sense of like, maybe there is some sort of, car god that's trying to speak to you and be like, something small happened that led to like a bigger thing that you have to do, but it could have been, this would have been fine. And then the timing belt snapped on his way home and the motor is toast at that point. So if you can just look at it like that when you're building your car, it really does help like the mental stress, because when I saw that the water pump was leaking, I literally just wanted to like bash my head up against the wall, because he wants his car back. I get it. I would be in the same boat. This was supposed to be done 3 weeks ago, and now we're at the point where I'm just waiting for like little bits and pieces. And the nice thing is the car's back together now. So once we get those little bits and pieces in, the car can drive, it can go get an alignment, go get on the dyno, and he can have his car back. So mental stress, you got to just roll with the punches when it comes to some of these car build stuff, because it gets annoying as fuck. Like, I've been dealing with this for 7 years on my car, and it's always one thing after another, and it is what it is. And if you're doing the correct thing and building it the correct way, when there is a mistake or a failure, you're gonna have a lot easier of a life. I can't stress that anymore. So I'm gonna pull out that gauge. I've done it on his car. It's so easy. It's like you hook one sensor to a vacuum line and then you plumb it into the car and put it in the thing. So I'll probably just show you when it's done. I want to get my podcast going. It's my first day back. I'm so excited to be back. I'm going to get that going. We did some cool stuff in Washington. I was able to see my amazing girlfriend's family, and she has a Skyline in Washington. I got a couple clips for you guys of just us, walking around the car, driving. It's an amazing car. We love that car. I wish it was here. Maybe sometime in the future, you'll see it on the channel. I'm glad to introduce it now. This is Lex's white GTST Skyline R32. Jesus! All right, good news. New boost gauge is in, along with the air fuel ratio. We got it on key on power. key on power, why no worky? One second. Okay. I'm kind of a dumbass, but at the same time, it's like I'm not, because I use the original power source from this fucking thing, and the reason why it's different, and I'll show you in a second. Well, I'll just show you right now. So works when the lights are on. Well, I guess the lights aren't really on. That's just like running lights or whatever. I kinda want that to be like, I don't know. Damn it. I really thought using that power source would be fine, because I was getting key on power, but at the same time the lights were on. So I was like, oh, I'm working on the car, I should turn the lights off. Then I plugged everything in, and then I went to show you, and no worky. So yeah, I might change that. Don't really like the idea of being able to turn my boost gauge off when that is off, but you learn, you live and you learn. I was trying to find a good power source, and then I metered with my meter this line, and it makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, because boost always worked because it fed vacuum to the gauge, and then the gauge would just work. But then obviously when you turn the lights on, the little shitty light would turn on in here for like nighttime. So I don't know, kind of feel like a dummy, but at the same time it's like that is key on power. So I'll probably just leave it for now. I still have to get the oil pressure gauge in, so maybe I'll just get some out of fuses and use that 10 amp spot that I have down there for that. But it works, I'm pretty sure. I haven't turned the car on yet, but it's hooked to the same vacuum line that this was, so that's the nice thing. And I didn't have to run anything up to the engine bay for this one. I had the boost line that came up to this gauge up here. God, it's gonna be so nice to be able to see my gauges now. So it's all in the car, but I thought I was being extra fancy by tapping into these wires rather than like running to my own power source. But you live and you learn. I did not know that this was like rubber. I always thought it was hard plastic. Happy to get rid of this thing though, because 15 psi or whatever, I tapped this gauge out like on my last motor. So still have the access port. I'm gonna obviously be able to compare the two, which will be nice. Make sure that that is the correct reading that I want, that the ECU is seeing, and all that fun shit. So, but yep, little mess up. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of work too. Those wires were short that came off of this one, and I thought I was being slick, but you live and you learn. So I guess we will end it out right there. Got the boost gauge in. Hopefully I'll have a message soon about those fittings so that I can get the gauges in the cars. I'm still waiting on mine. It's on back order, but I need to get it in this car sooner than later so that that can be done completely. Hopefully next video we'll have the timing kit going on and get this car back together and back running. I really appreciate all of you guys watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys next time. Peace.